All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. We're down to just four teams that still have a chance to claim the national championship for this men's college basketball season. And the foursome that is headed to Houston was not expected by many to still be standing. Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, and Miami are all making their first appearances in the Final Four, while they will be joining Connecticut, who has won more national championships since 1999, four, than any other men's basketball team. But things are so different this year as no number one seeds got to the Elite Eight, which was the first time in the history of the tournament. And this year's quartet will feature a pair of five seeds, both San Diego State and Miami, a four seed in Connecticut, and then a nine seed in Florida Atlantic. No one's made the Elite Eight. One, two got that far, and a pair of three seeds, K State and Gonzaga, who were both sent home this past weekend, made the round of eight. But for UConn, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, they all represent non-power five football conferences. Of course, UConn's a football independent. They play all of their other sports in the Big East. San Diego State's from the Mountain West, while Florida Atlantic currently represents Conference USA, but of course they're about to jump to the American. And all four participants at the end of the day are not considered to be blue bloods of college basketball. But for anyone who is thinking that things in college basketball will stay consistent going forward, being that the Final Four will be the exclusive province for the likes of Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Kansas. This year's Final Four represents a new day because parity has taken over college basketball, and in my opinion, it is truly good for the sport. A lot of things are factoring in, and this has been happening for years as far as players leaving the bigger schools early for the NBA draft. But then the transfer portal in recent years, along with the NILs, have all contributed to the playing field being leveled out a little bit more. As what we're seeing right now between the transfer portal and the NILs, in my opinion, it's the equivalent for professional sports, where the way that they have their revenue sharing, this is the equivalent, in my opinion, on the collegiate scene. We've already seen a one seed in Purdue go down this tournament as they were knocked off in the first round by Fairleigh Dickinson. For the third straight year, a 15 seed knocked off a two seed as Princeton sent Arizona home. And for the second consecutive year, a 15 seed made it to the second weekend of the tournament. Princeton got to the Sweet 16 this year. Of course, St. Peter's made it all the way to the Elite Eight last year. The gap between the bigger schools and the smaller schools is not as big as it was maybe 20 or 30 years ago. The smaller schools, they tend to benefit from their guys playing together for several years, which leads to more cohesion on the court. But then again, they're benefiting from the transfer portal as well. You look at Fairleigh Dickinson, how many new guys that they had on their team this past season, and then of course it paid off for them. But overall, when you see the smaller schools, quote unquote, taking on the bigger schools, there's no fear. There's no intimidation when these non traditional powers, if you will, take on the established brands. It's showing up not just in the tournament, but it's also showing up throughout the college basketball season as well. The first weekend of the NCAA tournament is arguably the best weekend in sports in this country. And it's one of those because of the upsets. And in my opinion, that excitement has spilled over to the rest of the tournament. Now, remember, I said before this tournament began, and several weeks before this tournament began, that I would not be surprised to see plenty of upsets this year. And that has been the case. Coaches at the smaller schools are trying to establish themselves. They're always hungry. Some go to bigger jobs, some end up staying, a la Mark Few at Gonzaga. And I know some people are going to criticize Gonzaga's program because they haven't won it all. But you look at what Mark Few has done in about the last 25 years out there in Spokane, and I'll ask anybody, Previously to 98 or 99, with the exception of John Stockton, how much did anybody know about Gonzaga basketball? Everybody knows about Gonzaga basketball right now. So that just gives you an idea of it. But at the end of the day, some people are going to ask, is college basketball better or worse for this? And in my opinion, college basketball is much better because you look at this tournament, you had 68 teams come into this field. 30 teams, in my opinion, at least had legitimate chances to win. We saw two teams go to the first four, win their games, and then advance, both Pitt and Fairleigh Dickinson. And a third, Arizona State, almost got by TCU in the first round. And I'll tell you like this, the way that Arizona State was playing coming down the stretch, had they have won that game, we might still be talking about the Sun Devils playing right now at this point. But the gap has closed so much. You think back to the first round when Furman knocked off Virginia, there was no fear there. You think back, you look at Princeton on their run. Princeton was not phased by anybody that they faced in this tournament, even in losing to Creighton in the Sweet 16. Even after Fairleigh Dickinson, got past Purdue, they had Florida Atlantic very close throughout that contest. You just see about it. You look at how many close games we've had throughout this tournament, and I think that trend possibly carries over to this weekend. You have four fearless teams that are going to take the court uh, down in Houston. You have four teams that are very legitimate basketball teams. You have four teams that, for the most part, are very complete teams. You look at Miami, of course, the strength of Miami is their guards. You look at San Diego State, their strength is on the wings as well. You look at Florida Atlantic, they're more balanced. You look at Connecticut, they're more balanced as well. But nonetheless, these teams know how to get after you. And also, more importantly, these teams are well coached. And this trend is going to continue as far as the unpredictability of the NCAA tournament. You got to really pay attention to the seasons. There's nobody, in my opinion. I know that we had some number one seeds, Alabama, of course, Houston, Purdue, and Kansas. But in my opinion, nobody really separated themselves from one another during the season. And it showed, and it has shown here in the NCAA tournament. I told everybody to buckle up heading into this tournament. We've had a lot of excitement. And at the end of the day, it would not surprise me this coming weekend in Houston to see a champion that most people weren't expecting. That is the name of the game. That is the nature of the beast. This is what the new college basketball is, and the sport is better for it, like it or not. But parity is here to stay on the college basketball scene. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.